Hello, I'm Benjamin Smith from the United Kingdom's Department for Transport. Here in the UK, the Department, along with the Department of Energy and Climate Change, is in the process of implementing the European Union directive that brings aviation into the EU Emissions Trading System, or ETS. The ETS currently covers static installations, such as power generators and factories, but will apply to aircraft operators from 2012. Not only large commercial operators, but also operators of smaller business or private aircraft. There are some exemptions from the system, including flights performed by aircraft with a maximum takeoff weight of less than 5.7 tonnes. The UK is implementing the directive in two stages. We consulted on the first stage from March to May 2009, and this legislation, the Aviation Greenhouse Gas Emissions Trading Scheme Regulations 2009, entered into force on the 17th of September 2009. The regulations imposed obligations on aircraft operators to apply for an emissions plan and to monitor and report emissions each year from 2010. They also established a procedure for operators to apply for a free allocation of CO2 allowances. I'm pleased to report that operators responsible for 99% of the total CO2 emissions from operators assigned to the UK for regulation have submitted an emissions monitoring plan to the UK regulators. Thank you to all of the operators who complied promptly. The UK Government is now consulting on the second and final set of implementing regulations. These regulations include the following additional provisions: the requirement for operators to surrender allowances at the end of each year, the process for new and fast-growing operators to apply to the special reserve to obtain allowances, the system the UK proposes to apply to recover the cost of administering the system, and further detail on how the UK intends to ensure compliance with the system, including the use and enforcement of financial penalties and the proposed arrangements for enforcing an operating ban if one is imposed by the European Union. We believe the issues in this second consultation are important to our stakeholders and wish to encourage and facilitate as many responses as possible to inform our decisions on the final set of implementing regulations. Recognising that many of the operators regulated by the UK are based abroad and may not have representation in the UK, we have produced this short video which we hope will inform you about the consultation and encourage you to respond. One of the key components of ETS is that from 2012, operators will be required to surrender allowances equivalent to their verified CO2 emissions. The mechanism for surrendering allowances forms part of the consultation. Starting with 2012, allowances equal to verified emissions must be surrendered for each calendar year by the 30th of April the following year. Failure to surrender the correct amount of CO2 allowances will result in financial penalties. We discuss this in more detail in a later section. The consultation also provides information on and asks questions about proposals for a system of charges to cover costs incurred by the UK regulators in administering the system. It is worth remembering that revenue from auctioning of allowances accrues to the auctioning state. In the UK, the government does not ring-fence revenue, so revenue from ETS auctions is paid into the consolidated fund. To cover the costs associated with administering the Aviation EU-ETS, we have proposed a mechanism of fees payable by operators to the UK regulators. Details of the proposals can be found in Part 7 of our consultation document, but they are, in summary, £1,120 for making an application to the Special Reserve, £430 for varying an emissions plan, and £115 per hour for determining emissions on behalf of an operator. The consultation also proposes an annual subsistence charge to recover costs not recovered by specific fees. The proposed fees are based upon cost estimates provided by the UK regulators. Again, details on the proposals can be found in Part 7 of the consultation document. Consistent with the approach taken for other industrial sectors within the EU ETS, we propose differential charging based upon the level of emissions from an operator. In summary, operators emitting less than 50,000 tonnes will pay £2,550 per year. Those emitting between 50,000 and 500,000 tonnes will pay £3,320 per year, and the largest operators emitting over 500,000 tonnes will pay £4,080 per year. The consultation document asks for comments on these cost recovery proposals and for suggestions of alternative cost recovery options. We also ask how the proposed charges would impact upon your business and your aircraft operations. In our consultation document, we make a series of proposals for civil penalties to be applied to operators for specific offences. In setting the levels of penalties, we have followed relevant UK guidance on proportionality and deterrence. You will need to refer to the consultation document for detail on our enforcement proposals, which include: for failure to surrender sufficient allowances or project credits, a fine of €100 for each allowance, with one allowance representing 1 tonne of carbon dioxide. This penalty is prescribed in the European Directive and therefore cannot be varied by the UK or any member state. A penalty of £50,000 where an aerodrome operator fails to provide assistance and advice to a regulator. A penalty of £50,000 where a person fails to comply with a direction issued with the intention of enforcing an operating ban. For the first set of implementing regulations, we consulted on proposals that in extreme cases of non-payment of civil penalties incurred for non-compliance, the regulator may detain any aircraft operated by the operator in default in order to recover the debt. In this consultation, we are asking for your views on our proposals on the mechanisms for applying for an operating ban and enforcing such a ban in the event that one is imposed by the European Union. Steps to enforce the ban could include detention of an aircraft. For full details, you should refer to Part 11 of our consultation document. The introduction of aviation into EU ETS is estimated to lead to a reduction of 194 million tonnes of CO2 across the European Union in 2020. It is therefore of great importance to both the UK and the EU that the system is introduced effectively. I hope this short video has enhanced your understanding of the UK's proposals for its legislation. I urge you to view this video as a supplement to the consultation and not an alternative, and to take the opportunity to shape the direction of the regulatory regime by responding to this consultation before its closing date of the 5th of March 2010. The consultation document, draft regulations and a response form can be found on the website of the UK Department of Energy and Climate Change at the address shown on the screen now. Thank you for watching. We look forward to hearing your views.